Okay, thank you very much. No one wants to speak? Okay. We'll go ahead and close the audience of citizens. We have the acceptance of minutes from our May 6th meeting. If we review them, we could take a motion.
Motion to accept.
Okay, second on that?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Okay. Turn over to Roche for our discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So good evening, everyone. You're doing well. So today's meeting is not a presentation, it's a discussion. And in a moment, I'm going to invite the Executive Director of the Connecticut PGA, Mr. Tom Hankey, to come and give a little background about him, and then also to talk about the Connecticut PGA and what they do, right? So we have been meeting for almost 4 months now, and at some point we have to sort of come to closure with what we are doing, make some decisions, right? I've told Tom our objective here, I hope it's yours too, and you get an opportunity to share your thoughts, that we need to find ways to create or increase our margins here at Timberland so that we can get to a sustainable financial model that will cover both operating as well as our capital needs. Right? And that's the broadest scope of what we're trying to accomplish here. So I don't know whether we want to do a 360 or we pick and choose the ones that we believe that we can improve. So I don't think we'll get all the answers today at the end of this conversation, but hopefully we can land in a spot that will tell us, you know, here are half a dozen things that we might want to look at and how the Connecticut PGA might be able to help us with that. Right. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom, and because of regulations and the laws, we have to keep the outside public engaged here. So you can't just speak from there. Everybody out there, they have to hear that. A couple of people online. So I would ask you to come and use either mic so that it has to be a recorded one. Speaking from there, we won't hear anything, and the others on the virtual world can also hear us. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Hankey.
Rosha, thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. Tom Hankey, I'm the Executive Director for the Connecticut section of the PGA. It's one of 41 sections of the PGA. We are all part of that organization. We actually have 2 nonprofits. We have a C6, which is our trade association, which serves our members and the game of golf. And then we have our charitable organization, which is a C3 charitable organization, which serves military veterans, youth golf, and physically and mentally disabled, which are all charitable benefactors. I oversee both board of directors. Been in my position for 28 years here in Connecticut. I served the Middle Atlantic section, Maryland and Virginia for 6 years. There I was the first employment and club relations director in the country. Built a database back in the late 80s and 90s where there was 535 golf courses, which I was involved with all those employment searches going on at that time, with 53 to 56 a year or so, when they were building a lot of golf courses. And then, as we know, some golf courses fell aside. But in any event, recently I've been on the PGA Section Executive Director Committee. It's an 8-member committee of my peers. I served for 8 years on that committee. In the last 2 years, I was the chairman of the 41 executive directors. My term ended in 2020, 19 and 20. It was an interesting year last year, as we know, in golf. Certainly was getting a lot of Zoom calls with peers from Idaho and Utah and Nebraska, how we operate in golf under those various protocols. Locally here in the Connecticut section, obviously we're part of Western Massachusetts too. We're comprised of 330 members, PGA members. Mark Bayram is a PGA of America member and serves the Timberland Golf Course. So he's a member, and our members are in various different capacities. Nathan Grube is a PGA member. He's the tournament director for the Travelers Championship. We have members who are in the media. We have members that are in different roles, not just as golf professionals. We do 60 different programs and events. Obviously, most people think we run tournaments, which we do. We run the Connecticut Senior Open. We run PGA member events. We run Pro-Am Series events. We run a number of junior events. We run 30 or so junior events. We operate the drive, chip, and putt contest for the Augusta National Golf Club. Here locally, we do 5 of those, and then we do a sub-regional, and then we're actually doing a regional at the TPC, where the young girls and boys advance to Augusta National for the National Drive, Chip, and Putt Finals. We do PGA Hope, helping our patriots everywhere. We've done that for 3 years now, where we bus in disabled veterans from the West Haven Hospital, bring them up to Goodwin Park. We're also doing it in Springfield, Massachusetts. We do 3 6-week programs with those veterans, introducing them to golf. It's more of a social camaraderie thing. They just love getting out of the hospital. They never met either one. You know, they tell jokes. You know, one's on a gurney, going next to gurney, and they go, "You're going to the golf thing," and it's really heartwarming and inspiring to see what we're doing to help them. So it's very diverse in what we do. I have 4 full-time staff members that work with us at the Connecticut section and at the office, and we're pretty multitasking all the time in different activities. I kind of like to run our business like a construction business, because we're always going here, there, everywhere. We might be at Timberland, we might be at Goodwin Park, we might be at Shinnecock, we might be at Springfield Country Club, and we're in different areas. So it really is about 90 days where our staff is going in different areas. My goal is to probably share with you some of my experiences, and I know that there's some interest in the genesis of what we did with the city of Hartford with their 2 golf courses that were really on life support, or even dead. So I'll go into that a little bit, but you know, there's in our marketplace in Connecticut section is a different golf marketplace than Cook County in Chicago, or Palm Beach County in Florida, or Loudoun County, Northern Virginia, or Fairfax, or Baltimore County, or Anne Arundel counties. It really is. It varies. Even if you're in a state, our market is heavily public golf. Actually, 67% of the golf courses are public. We have 185 operating golf courses in the Connecticut section, which we are the Pioneer Valley of Western Massachusetts. 45 of them are up there. 140 are here in Connecticut. There are an additional 31 golf courses in Lower Fairfield County that we are part of the metropolitan section, where PGA members that are employed there are affiliated with them. So there's 171 operating golf courses in Connecticut. 67% of them are public. We took our market in the Connecticut section. There's 35 municipals like Timberland, okay? And there's 9 of those are 9-hole facilities, and the remaining are 18, and there's a 27-hole, and there's a 36-hole. Fairchild Wheeler is a 36-hole. And there's actually a couple of municipalities that have 2 golf courses. Springfield, City of Springfield has Veterans and Franconia. City of Hartford has Goodwin and Keeney Park, and the City of Waterbury has East Mountain and Western Hills. I'm pretty familiar with all the golf courses and operations. Been over a quarter century. Out of the 185, I've been on property or been involved in operations at 124 of them. I played 95 of them. So it's, you know, I belong to a member of a private club, Ellington Ridge, and I've served on the long range committee, I've served on the greens committee, I've served on the golf committee, and you know, I get to see how that business operates, and I see how the other golf courses and businesses operate. So, you know, my first really strong interest in municipalities and golf really happened in the late 90s here in Connecticut when, this was my early time here in Connecticut. Everyone was talking about Shinnecock. The winter, you go play there in the winter, you know, because everybody goes there, where can you play? Where's the course? And they go Shinnecock. And, you know, I looked in the record, there wasn't anything that was played there, or there wasn't anything that was of magnitude. But then I heard Pfizer was doing a land swap with them, and Pfizer wanted the fifth hole, sixth holes, which was a par 5, par 3, and a par 5 coming back up, and they wanted it for a parking lot, and they wanted to trade and take that land, and then they rebuild a part of new holes over there on the other side of the Eastern Boulevard. And I said, geez, that's a good thing, and maybe we can help you promote that a little bit. And so what we did is we planned to take, we were operating at that time an 18-hole Connecticut Senior Open, and we turned it into hey, let's be part of your grand opening ceremony, and we'll institute a 36-hole Connecticut Senior. And there was only 70 people that ever played in it before. And so the first year in 1998, we operated the Connecticut Senior Open. On the second day of their reopening, we had 144 full field. And in July, we'll be going there for the 24th straight year. It's great, a presence. Everybody now knows a little bit about the history of Plant, who was Morton Plant, was a benefactor, and was a private resort. And, you know, the people that are played there include Walter Hagen, Jack Nicklaus, Bobby Jones, Glenna Collette there. No other place has had that kind of history of bones. And so we've helped them through the Connecticut Senior Open raise their presence of what their property is. And I think the town council now is getting it, because their eyes were always on those early years on, you know, what's the financial bottom line and everything else. So, you know, there's players from 14 states that come every year. It comes to the town of Groton. They're going to stay there, they're going to eat there, they're going to do other things there. And, you know, the team takes pride. Eric Morrison, the superintendent, takes great pride in what there is, and Todd Goodhue, the superintendent. So there's a real collaborative working relationship there. So I was interested in that. So then, you know, fast forward a little bit, now we're into, you know, operations, and we're operating that. And you know, Hartford, you know, I heard about Goodwin Park, and they call it Goody. And I've never been there, you know. And Keeney Park, people were talking, oh, Keeney Park has got great bones. It was, you know, this and that. And never been. Golf in Hartford wasn't on the grid, as I call it. It wasn't, there was nothing happening golf-wise there. I mean, Timberland is an active golf club. You've got an active customer base. You've got people that are there. I know and so is Rockledge, and so is Stanley, and so is, you know, Simsbury Farms. But golf in Hartford, nobody was talking about it. And so then, you know, it happened late in 2013. This was, the city council said, hey, we got to take this back because this place has gone to the, you know, whatever. And they were really talking about Keeney Park. So they made, the council, they said, we're going to resurrect Keeney Park, and we're going to take over the operations of the golf course. Okay? And so they had an operating golf course like you have, you know, they leased it out for 30 years. So, and Jerry would understand this, the maintenance that was there, they never did the regular annual maintenance that you have to do. So, you know, you can't just play catch up over 1 year, over one season. It's gonna, if you neglected the maintenance of the golf course for one season, you're 2 seasons behind already, you know? And so they closed the Department of Health because the clubhouse was so bad. They closed the Keeney Park Clubhouse. So you walk over there, you couldn't even tell there was a golf course there, you know? And then you visit Keeney, Goodwin Park, and the greens, was that a green? It looked like, I don't know if that was a green or not, you know? And so, and they go, they're gonna operate this course. So initial conversations with John Lozano from the city was contacting us. And we just started talking to them, you know, what do you need? What are your needs? What are you looking for? And they kind of said, well, we want to operate the golf course. And okay, so, and you know, through meetings, and then Tom Baptist was the superintendent of Department of Public Works, and he was brought in to be the point person to oversee, because the council had already made this commitment to invest in Keeney Park and resurrect it. And they had already hired or retained through an RFP, Matt Dusenberry, as the design restoration architect. And it was not going to be a renovation, it was going to be a restoration over there. Goodwin was getting no love. They got nothing, you know, it was all to Keeney Park, you know, but both courses were deplorable and they didn't keep their eye on it. So the key thing that I saw is they didn't have an operational plan. So just from the conversations of just listening to them and what they had no idea of what they were getting into and what have you. So I just kept talking with them. And Tom Baptist, after these meetings, they brought us into the council meeting. They brought, you know, in myself and another member of our board, and they said, well, can you manage the courses for us? Can you manage it? And we looked at that. I went consulted with our COO at PGA of America and the legal counsel, and no, we can't do that because we're a nonprofit C6, and it doesn't really fit into the purpose of our organization. So I kept talking with Tom Baptist, and I said, well, we got to figure something out here because you need help. And he knew he needed help. And so between the two of us, we came up, well, why don't we be your consultant and walk you through everything you need to do? You know, and we'll be your eyes and we'll help you. It's your decisions, the city's decisions, you know, all that, but we'll be your, you know, professional guides, if you will, on everything that you need to do. And in 2014, we signed the agreement in March of 2014, and the town council said, okay, we want the golf course open March 31st at Goodwin Park. They didn't have a cup cutter. They had zero equipment. You know, that's what their knowledge was of it. And, you know, so we helped them set up their ordinance for their golf commission to what the golf commission's role was. We set up a golf authority that would meet every other Thursday, which I thought was, and still think is one of the keys to the success, because we had Superintendent Tom Baptist, we had the chairman of the golf commission, we had the legal counsel, Jim Nabisco, we had myself, we had another employee of ours, and we had members of the finance department of the city. Every other Thursday, we meet regularly to handle the authority and the decisions, you know, to what needed to be done. And this was watching the restoration tape going on place, which was done by Dusenberry, which really wasn't our part. Our part was to help them develop their operational plan and get them started. There was a couple of marching orders. Was number one, they wanted Knox involved. Knox was a city charity that was involved with maintaining the parks. They were actually knocking on their door and said, we can maintain the golf courses. And we said, whoa, wait a minute, you know, that you can cut grass in the parks, but you're not a golf course superintendent like Jerry over here. So we made sure that they would be bringing in qualified golf course superintendents. They didn't want any employees. They wanted no municipal employees, no union, no municipal employees. Had to be all done by agreements and contractors. So that's a novel thing to do on the maintenance side, because you don't have that anywhere that we saw, you know? So, the RFP, we help them with RFPs for the golf course superintendents, and go through the process, and they've got an independent firm, Gilman Golf, to really qualify to brothers, head superintendent experience. They were brought in to be the superintendent. We used the Knox people as the workforce that they would get reimbursed for. Same thing with the golf professionals, same thing with the food and beverage when it got to be that time. But set up the budget, set up the RFP, set up the operational scheme, and it was supposed to be 4 years. And the agreement was set up for 4 years. But they also wanted to, you know, have a reset in their PR and what their position was. So part of our role was to also bring to light a promotional plan for them, you know, to market their facilities. We weren't the marketeers, but we were the consultants to help provide that. So Keeney Park had a nefarious reputation. Nobody wanted to go to Keeney Park, particularly women, because there's this history, a notorious history, supposedly, and that was there. And they were very frightened to go in there. So we said, well, let's run a Hartford Women's Open and bring women into the property, you know, into 2 properties, and that way maybe they feel more welcome and feel safe. And, you know, it's amazing. You could go to Keeney Park today and you're going to see as many women playing that golf course as you're going to see men playing that golf course. And to me, it is the most diverse golf, of any golf course that I've been in this area. You're going to see people from all walks of life, all, you know, genders, national origin, race, religion. You just see it. It's so diverse. There's nothing like that everywhere else, because you go to any other place and the diversity looks pretty identifiable. You know, it was supposed to be 4 years, and it ended up being, they wanted to go 3 more years, which we did, until we could pass it over to them. You know, part of our deliverables, you know, was to give them a full-time employee as a consultant, which we did. Patrick Aldridge, we hired him, we paid him. He was their full-time consultant, but we brought other services to bear. You know, and as a nonprofit, our goal financially was not to make money, because we're nonprofit, it was just not to lose money. So we had to cover our expenses. And so giving them a full-time employee, giving all that in its public record, it was $150,000 a year. They got a full-time qualified, they got all the other services behind it, and we didn't make money out of that. And you could go to any professional consultants providing anything else, and you could see what kind of consultant fees you would be paying. So the other thing that we help them do is, obviously, to bring some light to it, is, you know, after the restoration and the work from the Gilmets, work from the golf professionals, work from all the team members that were involved, the stakeholders, and there's a lot of stakeholders in this about, was that Keeney Park got the Golf Magazine's Municipal Restoration of the Year in 2016. And, you know, it was getting a lot of kudos. And we brought the Connecticut PGA Championship there as well. You know, honestly, our golf professional members were kind of leery. They were very suspect. And many of them were very, you know, players all over the place and played a lot. But it's interesting, they had never been to Keeney Park and never played. And when they went there, they were impressed and they liked it. You know, it's a different, unique place. Goodwin, meanwhile, had this history of being this golf factory, but it wasn't tracking for whatever reason. And Keeney took off, but now in this last year, in the last 2 years, Goodwin has returned. You can't, the golf professional Joe Metz says, every day is a Saturday. You cannot get on there. And, exceeded its budget, calendar budget, because it's a fiscal year, in revenue, by over $250,000 last year. The budgets are not exorbitant. At Keeney Park is a $1.1 million budget, and Goodwin Park is $750,000, all in. The interesting thing about golf in the city of Hartford is the state of Connecticut bailed out Hartford financially, as I think that's well known. So there's this MARB, I think it's called the Municipal Oversight Revenue Board, or I don't know the acronym exactly. But anything the city of Hartford does financially has to be overseen by the state board. And so Keeney Park also, not Keeney Park, the city of Hartford also renovated the Keeney Park building. And so what happens is all the cost of construction, maintenance, anything with the golf clubhouse is now falling under the Golf Enterprise Fund. So that's a big nut to carry financially, because most municipalities, you go parks, streets, roads, buildings are all, out of the general fund, not into the enterprise. So as a result, because it's a depreciable expense, Keeney Park still is lagging in terms of meeting that bottom line revenue. It was even in the calendar year last year, which was good, it was $100,000 below. Meanwhile, Goodwin Park was almost $300,000 above. So it's one thing, it's still a $200,000 positive variance. So that was, that agreement, that service, there's nothing like it in the country. It was the first ever, and still is, in terms of that. That's kind of the short version. And it's not that short, so I apologize. Our board, our team, our staff, we want golf to be successful. And I see personally, I look at our market here where we are, and it's really three different types of facilities. You have the municipalities like you have the private member clubs like Ellington Bridge or Shell Meadow is close by here, which are member governed by boards. And then you have the privately owned golf courses. There's 89 of them. 89 of them, some are privately owned private, some are privately owned public. They're doing quite well. From a member engagement and from a financial standpoint, they're doing very well. It just serves kind of the market, the golf market here that well. I think, Arosha, you mentioned, and you're familiar with Bill Anderson from Blackledge. Yeah, and that's interesting too, because when we ventured into the consulting arrangement, a lot of our PGA members alike and golf owners alike said, "What are you doing? You can't do this. You're competing." And I remember Bill Anderson and the team of upper private owners, Bob Ferrati from Fairview Farm, the gentleman from Colchester, they all came into my office and they were just in my face yelling at me, what are you doing? And as we ventured through it right now, it's not this year, Bill Anderson turned 180 degrees, and now I'm helping him because he's, needs some help on some things he's doing with tax in the town and building and permits, and he sees that what we did was a good thing for the golf industry. And so I'm proud of that. I'm proud of all the people that were involved in what we've done. So, and what we're doing. And I think that's, that's really what we're about, and because we've gone into this, we've instituted what we call a golf course business symposium. We started this 4 years ago. We took a pause last year, obviously in the pandemic year, but we're resurrecting that. And it will take place in September 9th. So we welcome anybody involved in the business of golf courses. We fund it. It's going to be at the TPC River Highlands Clubhouse. We're bringing in Seth Wogg, CEO of the PGA of America, and this dynamic Ted Eleftherio, who's the Vice President of Player Engagement at the National Golf Foundation. And it's a really a seminar networking area. So to bring owners and leaders in the business of golf together in a forum where we can share ideas and collaborate and help one another. So I'll pause. I'm going a little too long here.
I know, I see that you're very passionate about golf, so I appreciate that. I'm a little bit sensitive to time here, and some of your commitments and all that. So let's try to focus on Timberland here.
Okay.
And why don't we, there are two ways you can do it. I mean, you're probably too early to ask for your opinion. Maybe you have a series of
It
questions
is.
for us.
I wouldn't even pretend to offer any recommendations.
How about I turn it over to our audience here to engage him in a conversation? Please pick a mic, ask questions. You need to use a mic though, so that people, there are quite a few people online, they can hear. Both of them will.
Thank you for your information, it's very helpful and knowledgeable.
You're welcome.
Katie Park, all right? How did the city of Hartford fund it? Did they get any federal, state, or any other funding from any other sources to cover the renovation of Katie?
Well, there was $11 million for the course. It's to renovate, the restoration of the course. That was that was all done before we got there. My understanding was bonds is the way they did that. This is before the bailout of the state. And then they did another 3.5 million restoration of the clubhouse.
Hey, Tom, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You use the mic though, because other people.
Okay, sorry. And another 3.5 million on the clubhouse. The capital investment in Goodwin Park was $660,000, and it was all for maintenance equipment because they didn't own any maintenance equipment. And they did a stipend of $350,000 for startup of operations because there was no operational money. My understanding that came from the city. It may have come from state or federal, but I don't ever saw that in any of the meetings I was at. And so I hope that answers your question.
I know the PGA has a lot of money. Does the PGA ever do anything with courses?
Well, the PGA of America is the Connecticut section is a little different. We're nonprofit. Our balance sheet for the Connecticut section is $600,000. Our balance sheet for our foundation is about $650,000. So we're not flush with the money. We're operated a member dues operated nonprofit. We did for the junior championships, which I didn't get into that, but we helped the Keene Park land, City of Hartford, the two junior champions, girls and boys, national. And actually the PGA came in and visited Hartford, Long Meadow, and Great River. And the championship department is the one who selected. It wasn't us. We toured them around. And, but our foundation locally put in $111,000 for that championships, those championships, because they needed some infrastructure that was not there in place. And that was the first time 4-person contract for any PGA of America championship. City of Hartford signed it, Section signed it, Foundation signed it, PGA of America signed it. That was the first for the PGA of America, and that was the first ever in the state of Connecticut, the PGA of America championship. So we weren't part of the funding, if that's what you were asking about. No.
Thank you.
Hi, Tom.
Hi there.
Tom, thank you for.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Yeah.
A few questions. What did you charge Hartford consultant first? You went through that.
Yeah, that was a brand new, I was trying to figure out, how do you charge this, I mean, we'd never been in that. And I was thinking on labor and time, our time, and bringing a full-time person in and paying benefits. So it was $150,000.
That's for the full-time person. Your initial consulting fee,
That's it.
that was it, $150,000?
Yeah, that's it.
No retainer, no nothing going forward?
That was it. And then we had the expenses of the staffing and all that.
Okay. Of the 67 public courses that you have in Connecticut, that we spoke of earlier, how many own the pro, how many municipalities own the pro shop and food services?
I don't believe any of the municipalities own the pro shop if they have a management group that's involved with it. Like Winton-Berry's Hills has Billy Casper Management.
Yeah.
Then Billy Casper Management, in their, agreement will probably have the merchandise of the shop. They'll take that,
How about food services? Do the municipalities get involved in food services?
I haven't seen
Outsource
it.
that.
I haven't seen it,
That's fine, okay. So your scope of Keene, did it include food services? I mean, when you did your initial review of Keene, right, and Goody, because I played it before and after, right? I've seen both,
Okay.
right? And it's phenomenal, the transformation, it really is. But did it include the food services?
No, there was no, the marching orders were no employees and no union, and so it had to be done through
So that
contract.
scope was set.
We set up the scope of services for the food service. Now, I knew Shenandoah, Tony and Peter run the Bar 4 restaurant down in Shenandoah, and they have a phenomenal business, and they have a lot of, not just golf people, but they have non-golf people. So I brought them up to take a look and use, that's what consultants do. You get the experts. I'm not the expert. You are. The golf professionals are. Jerry's the expert. You use the people that know, and you tap into that. And so we knew that you couldn't charge rent right away. So it's a little bit of a nice deal there for the both food concessionaires because they don't pay rent.
So
They pay a percentage of the gross that they get. The city takes care of the trash, they take care of the electricity, they take care of the cable television, they take care of all that. And the restaurateurs have to pay a percentage of the gross that they have.
Is there one that goes on afterwards, the true up, make sure everybody's honest? I mean, 8% of the gross, but
Yeah, there's some checks and balances there, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Two more. You did, how long did it take, you did a review about, obviously, Keene and Goody, right? You had to do an overall consultant. How long did that take? And
Well, again, I looked at it as, this was almost like new courses. I mean, Goodwood Park was 1906, Keene was 1927, always city-owned. Management groups for 30 years, okay? But with the restoration, and Goodwin should have closed. You played it before. It should have been both. One should have both. And so you really were dealing with almost new golf courses that really weren't, you had a blank sheet almost. It was a little different, because Keene, that's what people, they're respected. Where does this come from? Is this, it's been here all the time. No, that's the perspective many people have, except for those that have played it before and then played it now. So it's different than doing an operational review of what you're asking, say, okay, here's what's going on. Nothing is going on there. So it's different, I hope that,
Well, how long did it take you to do your analysis? Let's just say that.
Well, it took
Months, 2 months, 3 months?
Well, you got in, we signed the agreement late March, and you're off and running. And it was a team effort. Again, it was every other Thursday. You were building that review or building that operational scheme as you went along, So it's not like you would go and do an analysis and say, okay, write down, this is how it's gonna work. Because you really had to get all the stakeholders involved, you know, and really develop that. So you use them to develop your scheme in your operational review.
But you had to give a final report to the town council or somebody in Hartford as far as your recommendations go and.
Yeah, we build an operation, we will build an operational manual and things of that nature, yeah. But that, you have to be nimble with that, you have to be able to amend that as needed, because that's what happens
It's
too.
a live document, right? It has to change all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, everybody kills it alive, it's living, no, it's not living, but, yeah, that's too golf, okay? The game of golf has these traditional elements. We all appreciate the rules of golf and play by the rules and, you know, honor all those elements are great. That's the game of tradition. But that seeps into the business of golf. And really, golf courses are a business. They're a small business. And sometimes that's a barrier. And the word, I don't like to use the word change because people just, particularly golf, don't like it. So you gotta use transform or evolve, you know? And, you know, so you can't, you just have to be willing to accept that you're not gonna be what you were 2 years ago. You're gonna be something different 5 years ago. And you've gotta put in place, how are you going to, you know, embrace that, or how are you going to affect that? I think that's the most important thing, because, you know, you have to have faith in the people that you retain or hire are going to they want you to succeed. Everybody wants you to succeed. You just got to put that in place that's going to happen and allow it to happen that way.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for coming tonight. I just have a couple questions. And I don't know if it's getting into too much detail, whether you would know it or not.
I like detail.
You mentioned a $1.1 million operating budget at Keeney.
Yeah.
Do you know how many, within the maintenance part of that, do you know how many people they have on the ground?
I tell you, the superintendent wish they had more, because the Knox is the second chance workforce. It comes from social services. Second chance, they may have been incarcerated. They may have never had a job in their lives. And that's the workforce that the Gilmet team and Gary DeVoe has to work with, because they get a stipend for that. They can have up to $150,000 of that labor workforce paying a living wage that the city has for that group. The problem is Knox can't deliver enough for Gary DeVoe and the superintendent, you know. You might have had that conversation with him on that.
Yes, yeah.
So Jerry probably understands the dynamic of that. What the requirement for Gilmet Golf is, under their agreement with the city, because they're independent, is they need to have 2 qualified superintendents that are part of the team, a mechanic, and assistant as well. So Gilmet Golf has 5 or 6 of their employees, and then they're respective to 2 golf courses. Goodwin gets up to $150,000 of the Knox, and so does Keeney. Problem is they're never using it all because they can't, or the labor workforce. It's it's part of a social. You know, the idea is that Gilmets would train and develop these citizens into becoming bona fide, a career path, but it's challenging.
So I think it would be fair to say that their operating budget would be a bit more if they had to pay for the labor that
Well,
they're
that's
getting
just,
at discounted rate.
You have to pay the Gilmets a stipend.
Yeah.
So, and for that, what they provide. Now, it's 2 different stipends. Goodwin Park is, I believe, like 530,000. And, I mean, I could look at it. And Keene Park is higher, because there's a little bit more different kind of maintenance there. You know, there's a lot of fly mowers and different type of things. Again, I'm not the expert, Jerry's the expert on the maintenance of the golf course.
Okay, just one more point of clarification. You mentioned you had a 4-year contract and you had a 3-year contract, and you mentioned one number of 150,000. Did the 150 cover the whole 7-year period?
No, per year.
Per year, okay,
And it
thank you.
didn't change, you know, so.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, and the reason that I don't think it would, you know, part of the deliverable on that, sir, was, you know, our full-time staff person with labor and benefits for that, you know, with all the benefits that we provide. That was probably $80,000 of that $150,000.
So, appreciate the background about Keeney and Goody. But I think all of you would agree, Timberland is a gem. It's a well-oiled machine, it functions well, the course is immaculate, and there's some things to be done in the clubhouse and capital investments. So we are not looking at an elevation analysis similar to Timberland, or could be, I don't think so. I could be naive, but I'm putting it out there. So what would you advise? What advice do you have for us? What kind of an approach should we take if you want to engage you, perhaps, to look at it? How would you go about it?
The first thing I would examine, I wouldn't have right at this point any advice or counsel, but first thing I would examine and have you verify, how do our decisions and how are the authority established, particularly when you have to set that vision, you know, because yes, the city council at Hartford wanted to restore their golf course and they wanted to operate it themselves. That's as far as they got, okay? What you wanted that golf experience to be like, and what you wanted to do with your facilities moving forward, how you were going to maintain them, elevate them, evolve them, and go. You know, that's what you have to put in place, I believe, is that sound authority where you really have the stakeholders in place as part of that process. You know, you definitely need to, all these golf courses, the private clubs are the ones that struggle with the capital the most, I believe, because they haven't planned and forecast for that. Whereas, yes, what's going to happen in a municipality is you're going to get the money somehow, you know, which is going to be there, but it's usually reactionary. It's not forecasted. You know, so I think is you'd examine that, number one, and you want it a regular, and you want that to be communicated to the council so that they embrace it and they support it. You know, and because a lot of it would, I believe, falls, you know, I don't know, the government is under Parks and Recs is where the golf falls here, oversight.
Well, it was under Parks and Rec, but now we have a separate golf commission.
And so I'm gonna ask a question now. So, what is the authority of the golf commission? Because I see that at Tashua Knolls down in Trumbull, that's different. At
Advisory only.
it's
Advisory.
advisory.
Advisory to the
Council
council.
makes the decision
Council.
at the end of the day,
Okay.
pricing.
Yeah,
Whatever.
because I've seen where commissions are making not hiring, retaining, contracting, and I'm going, wow, you know, that's interesting, you know? So, I would advise that. I think that the advisory, I think that liaison needs to be represented and really understanding that they don't have the authority, but they have to be represented in the decision authority kind of process. And because they're vital, they're your ears and your eyes, and they should be the channel of what's going on in Timberland to inform the council or the citizens and the townspeople. That's what, I mean, and I'm sure maybe it's written up some way that way. But, yeah, I don't, from what I'm hearing, excuse me, I don't think you have problems. You know, you don't have, you're not trying to solve anything. I think it's impressive that you're at this point where you're trying to figure how you're going to evolve and transform to be successful going forward. And I think I'd love to see that from a lot of different course leaderships, you know, to do that. Because you're probably busy, you're happy customers, you know. Yes, you've got maybe, would you say, a building that you want to upgrade a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'll speak, if I'm not out of line, I'm new to the town, so just last couple of years or so. But if you look at Timberland, the clubhouse was constructed in the 70s. It still looks like the 1970s building. So I think what we are trying to avoid is 50 years from today, or even 10 years from today, that it doesn't look like that, right? That we have a sustainable model, a way that you could fund the capital needs and the operating needs as much as possible, so that it's self-sustaining. You know, so that's what we are trying to get to, and how we probably definitely need to increase our margins to do that. And also look at other opportunities, how it's possible to make it a destination, such as the restaurant. And a couple of the places that you and I talked about have, you know, golf simulators, winter activity, where people are flocking there to play, you know, use those simulators. Those are money makers. So these type of things have to be looked at and see if there are ways that we can, you know, increase those margins and add value. So that, but without investing in it, I don't think you're going to get much out of it.
No, and, you know, as far as expanding your revenue base, I think a public golf course benefits from having a large customer base, okay? Because you really want to have access to, you want to grow the number of customers so that you can always have a dynamic tee sheet, you can fill that, you have that nimble ability to do that, you know? And that's what you have to do these days from the operator standpoint. And, you know, you've got, now you're hitting a you know, high season months, you've got a 80 to 90 to 100 hours of operating a week that your business, but Timberland, I'm going to call it a business because it is, you know, it's operating almost 100 hours a week that you're covering, that people are on property coming there and you're staffing them. So, you know, the staffing of that operation too is, you know, 80, 90 hours a week. That's a lot. You need more than one person per on shift. On our shifts is that. So, and that's an important part of your operation. You know, you've got to create a culture where everyone is welcome. You know, that's a big part in golf and the player development and growth of the game. You're seeing more in not just in golf, but in other businesses, diversity and inclusion. We're missing, golf is missing so much, to your point, simulators and quote, alternative golf experiences. You've got to make your property welcoming to all walks of life, you know, not just your customers. And yes, you have the resident rates that gives you the benefit to the townspeople. And they're going to always have that. They may have access to that, but you know, you've got a plan to make sure that you grow your customer base and it gets more diverse, and you're going to, you know, you create that culture and that experience there, and you're going to be set for, you know, the future a little bit there. But yeah, you know, the capital, you got to take care of your irrigation systems and your parking lots and your buildings. And how is that done? Is that through the golf enterprise or is that through the town general, if you want to do something with your buildings?
It's not an enterprise fund the way it's set up now, so it's pretty much everything is done through the budget, but also the town central budget pays for certain things.
Right.
Like buildings and grounds would fix certain things, but again, it's when it's needed, not a planned maintenance or there's not a
Well,
capital appropriation each year.
It's a great asset for the town, just like I tell them down in Santa Costa at the town garage. This property that you have is a great asset for the town. Look what it does, look how many townspeople come and utilize it. Look how many other people come and utilize it, come and visit the town. And you've got an attractive property, a golf course, and it brings people here and it serves your citizens too. And, you know, how you are, you have to have a financial perspective or policy, you know, what do you really expect out of it? You know, I read in a municipal journal, you probably have access to it, it was shared to me, but there's 2,500, give or take, municipalities that own golf courses in the country, including 2,900 golf courses. They're saying that 67% of them operate in a bar. You know, and then you have this, you know, this, not argument, but you have this position that, well, municipalities are taking care of pools and they're taking care of tennis courts and they're taking care of these athletic fields and other parks. And that's not a revenue stream, but it's being subsidized, so what's the difference with golf? That's one side of it. But there's actually a strong move afoot from some of these municipalities. They're trying to get out from under their golf course. Montgomery County in Baltimore, outside of Washington D.C., they've got, I think, 4 golf courses in their fold, 4, maybe 5, and they do need to get lightened up on that. Maybe they got a couple on that. So I try to stay in tune with what's going on there, yes, you just put in place something that you've got a successful operation now, but sounds like you realize we've got a plan and we've got to make sure that it's going to be that way 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years. And yes, you're going to have to invest in that and build the team, build the group to be able to make those right decisions.
Other questions? I'll go at once.
No, Roche, you hit the nail, I mean, do I have to get up and say this? You hit the nail on the head. It's where do we want to be it's not even 5 years. It's you know, where's your 3, 5, 10, 15-year plan? Where do you want to be in the future? And we're there. And we basically, I mean, if you've been up to Timberland anytime during the week, you've seen we're outgrowing what we have because it's packed. You can't even find a parking space. I left here today, went home, showered. It was packed. It's packed every night. There's something going on from the kids groups coming in, what they call them, USA Kids to.
Mr. Norton, you have to get to the mic.
Enough, but it's. I think we as a town need to decide what we want, and I think you're just kind of laying it out. You're just teeing it up for us, Tom.
Yeah.
And we do.
Well, yeah, and we were just down at the Tradition Golf Club at Oak Lane, which formerly was Oak Lane Country Club. There was that phenomenon in 2007, 2008, and there were 18 golf. So we're 185 now. We were at 201. We're net down to 185 golf courses, but it would have been more because there was 18 golf courses in that time frame that were going on. Oak Lane Country Club couldn't make it. They owned the town, they owned the lease, they owned a bank. Little Lemon Country Club owned the bank. And so these were bought out. Now they're privately owned, many of them. And Oak Lane is Tradition now. Oak Lane, Gina and her husband, they bought it 10 years ago. But they're investing, they upgraded the restrooms. They put facelifts on there. They operating a golf range, expanded it a little bit and made sure it was grass teeing grounds so that they can charge $18 for a large bucket. Can you believe that? And, but the buckets are flying off the shelf because they're hitting on grass. And the superintendent was there, but they have to make, it's a lot of maintenance on there to keep the grass because you don't have that much of tees, stations and so forth. But yeah, you're got it going now, but you got to keep that going. And you got to know that golf evolves, the game evolves, the people evolve, who's coming. So you just kind of keep a process in place so that you can upgrade your facility. You can take care of it. You're going to have to buy new maintenance equipment. I don't know what state of equipment you have right now, or new equipment is always coming onto the market that does things differently. So you've got to, and retrofit, utilize it more in the winter. Are you using it in those off-season months? Or is the restaurant being used in off-season months? Maybe not packed like it is now. So you want to kind of totally think about all those things too.
One question. Do you have a database, Connecticut PGA, that we can use to benchmark? So for example, if your operations are $1.2 million, what percent in general is used for compensation? What percent is used for ground maintenance? What type of revenues you get from the driving range, from carts? Is there something that you can benchmark?
We don't have that database, but we can get that information because that's what we did for some of the things in City of Hartford. We got that information and we have that ability to do that. I mean, of the municipalities, we can go to, some of the public records, obviously, in the municipalities, but and just like I was filling out our public records, it can be obtained. And sometimes, I think too, you want to, each one of these businesses are unique. And I know that you fall into that trap where you want to compare, Shuttle Meadow wants to compare to Ellington Ridge, but they're totally different. If you really dive into it, they're different. But you do want some benchmarks, in terms of that. Most 18-hole golf course maintenance budgets, Jerry and the superintendents are probably very familiar with what they are. They're going to probably be anywhere, depending, maybe 650,000 to the higher end, might be close to $1 million in some of these places, but you're going to be in that window, and like what's involved in it, you might have a water source to irrigate your golf course. Keeney Park doesn't have that. And they don't have a water source, so they're buying MDC water as part of, and that's a big chunk of that maintenance bill to irrigate that golf course. You want to see that bill? And MDC doesn't budge. So,
All right.
I hope this, my goal here, exactly, Rosh, I really appreciate asking me to come in, and I will tell you that our door is open, our phone is open. You can basically call me anytime. We don't have to be, because that's our role, is to help you and help golf. So you could call me at any time. I'm going to spend any amount of time talking to anybody and giving whatever I know or any experience or knowledge that we have to you or anyone else. So. I'm not in here to sell a business proposition for sure,
Great, thank you. Mr. Mayor, any closing remarks?
No. So,
Don't get old.
So, thank you for coming, and I think maybe, if there is some benefit to, I don't know if you would be willing to just look at some general things for us, and I think we're kind of looking for maybe a little bit of a direction. All of us, trying to figure out which way to go. We do have to sustain what we have and keep it going, and is doing well right now. I mean, I guess athletic courses did well during COVID, especially.
Yeah.
It was doing well before then. It did much better, and probably see what happens right as this year ends. Maybe we'll have a little bit better feel for what's going on as COVID ends. But
However we can help.
all right, we'll figure out what we may be able to look at, and just again, at a minimum, help us with the benchmarks. Just see how we're doing. And Jerry, you certainly probably can help us tell us what you think. Obviously, all of us here. So kind of what you said is what we're doing here. We're getting the groups together, the council, people running the golf course, our golf commission, to figure out how to make sure it's being run the way it should be and gonna keep running it and improve it for the future. That's really what
You're ahead of the curve.
we're trying to talk about. And that's good to hear. It probably makes us all feel better. We're ahead of the curve. I hope we are. And I think we are, but we want to do better. We can always do better. And that's what we're just trying to accomplish with the joint group with the golf commission. That's why we instituted the golf commission, because the council certainly couldn't pay attention to it like a golf commission can. Beside our employees, obviously, working for the town and helping us, but that's what the golf commission's here for, to be our eyes and ears and make suggestions how to run it, what to do. And so we are at the point now that, they've got some suggestions, and we've got to figure out where we're headed with certain things, how to improve it, revenue is part of it, but the restaurant, as Roche said, needs work, and some things need work out there certainly. So that's where we're at. All right. What else? Anything else, ladies and gentlemen? Anything else? Time for this meeting?
Next step.
That's a good question. What is the next steps? I feel like we still haven't got to what, reviewing everything, or I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm tempted to say that, we've gotten through COVID. Well, I think we've gotten through COVID. It looks like we've gotten through it, and it's a little bit different last year. It was apparently a good thing for the golf course, and I'm tempted to say if we can identify a few specific things to look at a little bit closer as we go through this golf season, but maybe we look and see what happens this next, because it was great, right? It's been great, and if we finish this season and then see what it looks like. I mean, I think we talked about the budget, and I know, some members of the golf commission don't like that break even or be in the black every year. I think it's reasonable. What Hiroshi has mentioned, and we talked about a little bit, is perhaps with that section, we do a rolling average, on that 3-year average or something to see, what the revenue is. So again, thoughts for discussion, whatever we all think with this group. But if there's some specific things we could look at the next few months as we get into the summer, improve it if we can, and maybe then at the end of this season, sit down and say, how did we do? COVID aside, how did it go, and are we headed in the right direction? Don't forget, we've had management changes at the golf course, which potentially will be a positive thing, I think, which that could change things too, right, going forward for the positive, I think. So, I don't know, what do you guys think? I mean, how much do you want to delve into it at this point? You want to wait until the season? I mean, if there's some specifics we want to look at in specific areas, certainly.
The season is a season. I mean,
Right.
Mark,
Yeah.
I agree with you that this is probably the last full year of COVID, if you think. And then this is going back, or, pick three. It's one of the three. Going back to normal,
Right.
you know, hybrid, or you can stay home. It's one of the three, right? That's basically what the majority of the companies are going to do. So going forward, I mean, we need to come to an agreement with, all of us, what do we see as the future of Timberland? Start with the footprint that's up there. Do we want to keep what's up there and recondition it, or, scrape it and start from scratch and then make it a destination like a Rockledge or a Stanley or something to that effect? Because right now it's not. And I think, Tom, you hit the nail on the head, because my wife has said that to me. She goes, if I'm going to go out to eat, no offense against, I'm going to go to a nice restaurant, I'll go to a nice restaurant. It's not really that, and Ramsey does a great job with what he has, but it's not that destination that you're gonna go to. It's, I mean, it's just not, right? I mean,
No, I agree.
it provides the function, and he does a great job with what he has, but his hands are tied, right? And, you know, so look at this as.
Tied with the building, basically,
Exactly.
the facilities,
It's a
yeah.
facility, and,
You know.
and it is, it really is, it's, I mean, it's a gem, it is a gem, you could have, you know, you start from scratch, and you know, just figure, what do you want to overlook, right? I mean, what hole do you want to overlook, and how do you want it to be?
It is the building.
The building.
And what do we want out of this thing?
think we know
What do
that.
we want out of the building? Do you want a mini, you know, locker room? I mean, I don't know yet, you know, but I just say, you know, listen, don't look with blinders on right now. Let's just look down the road and look 15, 20 years down the road, because the kids that are up there right now, that's the future. You see these, if you to spend the time, 5 minutes ago, these little kids, I mean, it's like, they're like ants. I mean, it's great. It's great that they're starting these kids this young, but that's what we need to look at. And it's the future of golf, and it's the future of the town. And it's,
Do you have land to expand a coaching, teaching area?
That's the other problem.
Yeah.
You need a good teaching area.
Now,
Yes.
Tom, out of all the courses that you go to, would you say there's a largest percentage of profitability in expanding our driving range?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah,
but
we just
none of your
gotta-
comments, none of your comments
It's
is recorded.
It's a great question. It's what we
Yeah.
need to.
Because it's not getting recorded and,
Yeah, it's a public meeting, man.
Yeah, don't feel shy, just get up and come and use the mic.
This is just a discussion, you know, that's what we're here for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tom, anyway, what I was saying is, so you see all these courses. We're not land starved at Timberland. We're looking to raise revenue. We have an inadequate driving range. For the most part, is there a larger percentage of profitability in expanding on it?
Well, a lot of it is the location and, you know, the access in. Are you are you a place where someone's going to come in and warm up? Or is it going to be a destination where you're going to work on your game, teach? You're going to go there primarily for the purpose, like Stanley Golf Course. It's that range is like right off that Hartford Road, right by the mall. They do ungodly numbers. They did $360,000 in revenue.
And this is.
That's like the utopia. Okay, now Gina told me yesterday, or excuse me, on Tuesday, that, you know, with their range at Oak Lane, and they were very successful, they did 60,000 annual revenue. Now, you can figure out what the expenses are. Yeah, you're gonna profit from it, but it's not gonna be an exorbitant profit. So Keeney Park is not, and Goodwin Park, 2 ranges, okay? Both nice. Goodwin's gonna do, it does a lot more than Keeney Park, because Keeney Park is a warm-up range. You gotta drive into the park to get there. You're not gonna go there, right? But you know, if you have that coaching, teaching experience there, that's gonna bring customers, gonna bring activity. They're gonna use the restaurant, they're gonna use other facilities. People is that, you know, and I was agreeing with this gentleman too. Yes, what you said, Mark, is right on. Monitor what you're doing this year, because everybody's coming out of this COVID year in golf and your business. What's the traction going to be this year? You know, I just talked to the owners of Glastonbury Hills this morning. They have 50 on their waiting list. That's a privately owned private club. They haven't had that before. And they're saying there are people knocking on the door trying to get in. They have 400 members. And I saw your business. He goes, well, we're not as busy as last year. So they're not, but there's, the other thing is, how are you contending with full parking lot and all these people right now? Is that coming out? Is that going to be sustainable? You know, so you're wise, Mark, to say, you know, we need to monitor this to help us. We need to monitor what's going on this year. But you're kind of you're hitting on your points, whether it's a teaching, coaching facility, you've got land, or whether building, you know.
I like
You're
the
talking about
practice.
the right things, you know.
I like the practice in the training facility to expand. And there's something here in Berlin that maybe you don't know. We have a long history of, you know, great seasons for our high school boys and girls. that we have winning seasons regularly, and I think they should have a good facility. And not only, all the residents get to share in it. It's one of the few things that we can share. Thanks.
So getting back a little bit to next steps in the process, agree we need to monitor, which is I think the role of somewhat the commission. We look at financials every month, we ask questions. That obviously will continue. I'd hate to see us lose the momentum that we have with this, but I think it's a question of also how much time and energy are we willing to put into this. It is a great asset, we're all agreeing on that, then I think we have to decide to invest some time and energy to do this. I think we also have to tap into, we have two experts who've been at that course a long time, Mark and Jerry. They have a lot of information, they have a lot of ideas. I think we have to bring that in. I think we need some working meetings with set agendas. And I'm not saying we're going to meet every week by any means, but I think to lay out, what do we want to accomplish over the next, 4 or 5 months in terms of tackling which questions. What areas are we going to look at? What information are we going to gather? And then, move forward from there.
Yeah, no, I agree with them. We do have to start getting down to some discussion on whatever topics we want to include in each meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I think one of the important things that you just touched on is as far as where is the golf course going to be financially? Is it our plan that it is to break even or make money or not? I think we've all started this process because of the ordinance for the Golf Course Commission that talks about the golf course breaking even. Or setting their rates to break even. And I think that's a very important thing for us to, agree on as we go forward. Is that what the target is? And I mean, that's something that the council really, has the final say on. And is that what the target is? I think we all need to know, very specifically, are we shooting to break even every year? And does that include the long-term costs that might be associated with capital maintenance? Are we expecting that those rates in the future also cover our capital costs of improving or updating or whatever, whether it be the clubhouse, the practice facilities, or whatever. But I think it's very important for us all to understand where we're going with that. And I think once we do that, then we'll all be on a good footing to say, this is how we get there then. Because I think up to this point, although that's been in the back of everyone's mind, it really hasn't, Arosh, mentioned it before, but I haven't necessarily heard the council say that this is where we want everything to go. And I just forgot the other thing. I always am.
A senior
When you get to be my age, that's okay. If I think that, I'll yell it out.
Yell it out. Well, I mean, I guess to answer the question about the break even, I guess my answer to that would be the council, not some of the members were on the council, but we passed the ordinance, obviously with that in mind. That was the intention. I don't know, what do my fellow council members think about that? That's why it's in the ordinance, because we thought it was important to be there. And I think, like I mentioned, we could always change some wording that it's an average. Listen, every season's different. It rains this whole summer. It's a problem, right, with revenue, perhaps. So maybe we make it an average. Maybe it's a 3-year average. Maybe not every year is. I don't know. We could have some discussion on that certainly, but I think it's in the ordinance for a reason. From what I remember, all the discussion was that was what we thought at the time. That particular council, with the members on it. But council members, what do you think now? What do you think about that? Yes, Charlie. Yeah, come on. Sorry, Charlie.
I know I'm in the minority here. I'm not a golfer.
Not really.
I've helped build a few golf courses and I know a little bit about business.
Yeah,
As a non-golfer, I think we're being short-sighted. It's an incredible asset to town. I think we need to spend some money on the facility and make it a year-round destination. I'm not a golfer and I wind up at Stanley 6-7 times a year for a meeting or dinner or a reunion. And I'd love to see that in town. And I think it's something we can utilize year-round and make it an effective money maker and a draw for the town.
yeah, I don't disagree with that. But if we figure out how to pay for it.
We're gonna have to spend some money to make money.
Like a long-term lease, I mean, that.
Yeah, maybe that. No, I mean, then we have to just figure
The
out.
rent payment goes towards the capital, and I mean, right?
Yeah, rest of the council members, opinions, thoughts? It's, it's our meeting, it's a discussion, I know, it's a public meeting, but we're here to discuss it and figure it out.
We're here to learn, and listen, we did. And I agree with what Charlie said, that we have to put some money into the facility. But I think my understanding is that we break even. And if we do it on a basis of averaging over 4 or 5 years, that's fine. We're not looking to harm anything, we're looking to improve.
Yeah, I agree. The council members' thoughts? So, yeah, I mean, again, I don't think that was put in.
If I may interrupt,
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah.
So, I'm still learning governmental accounting, very you're an expert on this stuff. How about, without making it an enterprise fund, that if you can create a fund that rolls forward from one year to another. So for example, you have a good year, you had $150,000, that rolls forward the following year. So you accumulate a fund balance that you can invest in capital, one, and if you run a deficit, it eats into the surplus that you have. So you're true to the ordinance, but at the same time, when you have a good year, you're not leaving, sorry to say this, money on the table, because we had a great year last year, we're gonna have another good year. So perhaps something along those lines, if you can think about a model that the financial model is self-sustaining, but it's not just measured just one year to another. That might be a way to sort of fund some of these initiatives.
Yeah.
And do other things too. Not just have the kind of operating structure, look at operations, things where we can be more efficient and at the same time expand our, revenue options that we have. So that's a thought I have.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely, please, yeah. Mike, you're a financial guru. You and Mr. Former CFO, you guys can come up with some way. That's all right.
The use of an enterprise fund has been talked about, for many years. There's a few municipalities who operate that way. Wittenberry operates that way. There's a couple others down the state that use enterprise funds. You're adding a lot of complexity to the rate setting process at that point if you're going to say that you have to cover your expenses, because now you're talking about depreciation as an expense rather than your capital outlay, right? And right now, some of our capital outlays are taken care of through the general fund, through our CNR fund. So there are complications. It's not just as easy as saying, let's do an enterprise fund because everything will roll over. New Britain uses special revenue funds. Norwich has theirs in an enterprise fund. Any number of them are similar to what we do, but not the same. Berlin's the only one that I know of that does all the operations through the general fund. And what the benefit to the golf course there is, if they lose money, the general fund absorbs it. If they make money, the general fund gets it. So the accounting is very simple, but we get into an enterprise fund. It's a little different, and most of my clients in the municipal sector lose money. you know, whether it's due to the high cost of union labor. I think that's one of the things that we had started looking at here early on, you know, the 800-pound gorilla in the room. You know, our maintenance costs too high because we have to pay union wages and, you know, and benefits. But the accounting can be done any way we want it to be done. We don't want to have the accounting drive the decisions for how you want to operate the golf course. You know, decide how you want to run it, and we can make the accounting fit it.
So don't go too far, you might have to come back again.
Sit on an empty seat, all right?
I'm saying, don't call it an enterprise fund, right? Find a way that, to make that work. I'm sure there's a way that we can do that, right? That the accounting to work, that when you have a good year, that it accumulates as a fund balance, and your revenues and expenses are portioning out of that. But I do hear you. Don't call it enterprise fund, then you get depreciation, you got debt service, all those other things add up. And let's not try to complicate things, you know, if we can make it simple, perhaps there's a way that we can have a conversation offline about this and see if there's a smarter way to do it. Because I think we all want Timberland to succeed, and, you know, if I put our heads together, a lot of intelligent people in the room, I'm sure we can come up with a way to make it work.
I think so, yeah, and you know, it's always the Berlin, that's not what you were really saying, but I always am cautious with the Berlin argument. Well, we've always done it this way, and when you say we're the only golf course that does it this way, that you know of, that's always a little suspicious to me, like, is there a better way then? Why does no one else do it? I have no idea what the answer is, but that always makes me wonder if there is a better way to do it. Why would we be the only one that does it this way? And again, just because we've done it this way for however long, it doesn't make it the right way, right? And maybe it's worked, we've been lucky, but if there's a better way, you know, maybe not the enterprise fund, but if there's a better way, maybe there's a better way.
If there's a chat room. Oh, thanks. You want to read it now? All right. It's Brendan Lundy. I believe we probably need a statement of needs or long-term planning for things listed here: course improvements, building improvements, range improvements, and relocation. I don't know what relocation is, but sort of have a statement of need for these categories.
Yeah, once we agree with what we want to go forward with, we can certainly do that. That would be the way to go. Yeah.
We submitted that.
You did. Oh, that's right, you did. That's how we started this whole thing, right?
Exactly.
Yes. We forgot, yes. Well, again, we can blame COVID for something, right? Sorry. That's everyone else blames COVID, right? We should use COVID, right? But I mean, it is true. We couldn't have public hearings and, you know, Zoom is Zoom.
Yeah.
People need to be out here in public, let's face it. So the question is, so what's the first thing do we think is the most important thing to start with our specific discussion? Is it the labor cost? I mean, I'm just, you know, is it the accounting, how we're gonna do it? Yeah, all right, which is in
Statement
statement of need, right? Which we can all review. Yeah, we can review that because I've forgotten what it says.
It probably needs some tweak, because since we wrote it, I think we've all learned a lot.
Right, yeah. So we can review that and make sure that's accurate with what has happened, and what we've heard. And then figure out what would, you know, so we can review that, and I'm sure we can tweak it. It sounds like from what we're all talking about, we all pretty much agree, well, you know, we know we need to upgrade things, we know we need to fix things there, we know we want to make it sustainable, and we want to make it better. We can, obviously, we want to make it better. So I'm sure that's maybe overgeneralizing it, but I'm sure that is what the statement of needs basically says, right? There's certain things we need to do there to go forward and make it a better place. So and we could, the start of the next meeting, we can talk about that and hopefully agree on that. And then we have to figure out what is the next step after that. That's probably an easy step there. The next step is what's first? Do we change the accounting first? Do we talk about changing how we pay for things? I mean, well, you know, that's that's the next question, and we don't have to answer it now, but we could think about it for the next time. What is the next, maybe we start with we can start with the easiest issue first, to try and fix it now, quickly, right? We discuss some things, and there's things, maybe Jerry says, hey, this thing needs to be fixed. Maybe we can fix something very quickly, right, if it's not that big a deal. I don't mean fix like capital fix, just whatever, procedures, whatever it might be. Or we can start with the most difficult issue, whatever that might be. I don't know what that is either, but going forward, what's the most difficult thing to,
At the end of the day, it may just come down to two issues. It'll be the building and costs.
yeah.
And that's it. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
I mean, I think we know the building.
All right, so which one do you want to tackle first, building or cost?
Well, I mean, it'd be nice to,
Sorry, what's the
Not to get up and
question?
say that. It's either building or cost. I mean, that's, so,
building or costs from the audience, yes, from Mr. Norton on the Golf Commission. We'll make sure they heard that. Building or costs. Yeah, I mean,
right?
yeah, I mean, that's certainly, it always comes down to cost, you know that, right?
Where's not money?
What do you think, Gary?
I think there are a lot of facets to a working golf course.
Agree?
Mike, Jerry, Mike, please.
On the
Mike,
mic?
stand up. I can't get over to.
Yes,
It's gonna be like Jerry Perry.
want to hear what you have to say. That's why we're all here.
Your
Yeah,
fan
that's why
club
we're-
wants to hear you.
Yes, I want to hear.
I know there are a lot of working facets to a golf course. To just focus on the building, on the course, and there's many parts to the golf course. You've got the equipment, as you alluded to earlier. Our equipment is older. I think our newest piece is probably 6 or 7 years old already. The newer equipment is that much better. I can go into the detail, but I won't. It will change the complexion of the course. There's your
Equipment, you mean,
just the day-to-day equipment.
the day-to-day, lawn mowers.
You can adjust frequency of cut from the cockpit of a new greens ball.
Yeah.
A lot of them are going electric, a lot of them are hybrid. Your cut is gonna be that much better. They now have groomers on their fairway rigs. Well, that's a $25,000 or $30,000 bill. But when you get done, it looks like glass. So that's just that one little part of it. You also have your irrigation system. A new irrigation system now is probably 2.5, 3 mil now. But nothing lasts forever. Your pump house has a life expectancy. You've already lived it. The life expectancy of a pump house is about 10 years. You're beyond that.
How far behind are we?
But we're about 15 years. So we've done things to be proactive so that we don't come in the morning and there's water all over the place. So we do what we can with what we have, the monies we have, to maintain what we have. But it's not forever. Your bunkers have a life expectancy. Average life expectancy of a bunker is about 10, 12 years. Well, with the renovation, you're coming up on that time again. So, these are all substantial costs if you want to continue on, maintain the golf course. And again, the bunker renovation now, you're probably looking at $1.5 million to $2 million. So these are all things you need to take into consideration. My thing is, the talk that he gave was just incredible. What do you want to be when you grow up? And that's what I ask every day. There are certain things we can do, certain things we'll be doing to change the complexion of the course for a little bit of money. It'll make a big difference. We started removing a lot of trees from the course for cultural reasons and for plans that I have going forward. But the question has to become, what do you want to do, guys? How much of it do you want to put into that? Why am I going to go to Timberland as opposed to Stanley, as opposed to Hunter, as opposed to Rockledge? Why? Well, you better have a reason, because I can go anywhere. We're all within 10, 15 miles of one another. What I propose, and I've been playing this game my entire life, and I would like your opinion on this, but I am involved in the ski industry. In the winter months, I volunteer.
And one of the things the ski industry has is they have a mountain, and within the mountain, you have different levels of expertise. So if I'm a beginner, I can go over there. If I'm an intermediate, I can go here. If I'm an advanced skier, I can go there. What does any golf course not have? You've got your senior tees, your ladies tees, if you will, your white tees, and your blue tees, your championship tees. If I'm a beginning golfer, I see this every day. They're gonna, if you're 50 or 55 or 60 or for that matter or under, you're playing from the white tees. You don't want that, well, I'm not quite a senior yet, I'm gonna play from the senior tees. What I propose is you make a hybrid course, a course within a course, and you do another set of tees forward. That beginning golfer can come to Timberland, or any golf course for that matter, and not feel intimidated and play and enjoy the game. Not having to play the 560-yard par 5 and get there in 10. It's good for the game, it's good for basic play, it makes it more enjoyable, and you're gonna open up that market. I just think it's, you know, something that the game or the industry needs to be looking at. But that's, you know, down the road, that's just, you know, my thoughts on that. But anyhow, and as far as, you know, the building and so forth, yeah, we're behind the times. We are behind the times. How much does Berlin want to invest into that building? You look at Hawks Landing. I know the super over there, we're doing an equipment sharing program over there. They just took their first tee and dedicated it to a tent. They've got plenty of buildings. They sacrificed that first tee to make even more square footage to do entertain, to host gatherings or whatever. And they're willing to take that money and then rework their golf course so that they could do that, which may turn out to be, I don't know, whatever it is, $100,000, $200,000, but they're willing to do it. They're privately owned, and they're willing to do it. You look at Stanley, what, you know, Calvin East has done there. You look at Rockledge and what they've done there. If I want to go out to dinner, I'll probably go to Rockledge. It's a nice restaurant. Am I going to drive to Berlin to go to Ramsey's? As good as it may be, Ramsey? No, I'm not. And again, what I see on a day-to-day basis is the number of out-of-towners you have coming to play. You got, I would say the majority of those people are coming in from out of town. I don't know any other business in Berlin that's pulling in out-of-towners like Berlin does. So when they're there, are they gonna go down and grab a pizza? I don't know. Are they gonna stop and get gas? I don't know. But I do know one thing, they know where Berlin is now. You take Timberland out of the equation, I don't know what you got. I really don't, as far as people coming in from out of town. So Timberland is, in my opinion, the best piece of real estate in Central Connecticut. I've always said it, and I'll say it till the day I die. No matter where you stand on that course, no matter which way you look, 360 degrees, you're not gonna find a better view. You're not. You got maybe two houses, I'll call 1.5 houses on a golf course, on an 18-hole golf course. I don't know of any other course in Connecticut that has anything like that. You are exceptional. Now you just gotta tweak it and, as everybody's saying, have the plan going forward.
So if you are the golf god now. Okay.
No.
And you can go, no, if you are, and
Yeah.
you can have anything.
Yeah.
You mentioned, you know,
Yeah.
the bunkers, the
Yeah.
sprinkler system, you know, millions of dollars here and there, but.
Yeah.
So what's the first step forward, do you think? You're running the place, like tomorrow, if we all said to you, all right, what do you need? Well, what can we start with? Fixing, improving.
You know, the golf here in New England it's difficult.
Yeah.
And you really have 6 months to make it. You really do. You could say March, yes, even April, first half of April is iffy. Once you get into October, things can change, and they can change rapidly. So you've got 6 months to make your up. So, you know, looking at what other industries do, seasonal industries, again, I keep referring to the ski industry. What have they done? What have the successful ski areas done here in Connecticut, Mass, and Vermont? They go 365 days. They have to, otherwise they're not gonna make it.
Yeah, Otter Ridge just did some of that.
Otter Ridge
stuff,
did
right?
that, Southington's doing that.
Yeah.
Up north, you know, they're doing that because they can't rely on that 3 or 4 months to, you know, foot the bill for the rest of the year. Golf, in my opinion, in New England, you're in the same boat. And you look at the successful courses, you look at the Southingtons, you look at the Stanleys, you look at the Rockledges. I'm talking about our little world. And especially if you get into Fairfield and Shenny and even, you know, Keeney for that matter. That's what you gotta do, folks. If you want that place,
What do we do off-season? What was the first thing we would do to, we know the restaurant, we know, probably we need to improve that.
you know, the restaurant, but again, are you gonna drive to Berlin to go out to dinner from New Britain or Newington or something? I don't know, because of your location. As you know, whether it's Rockledge or it's Stanley or it's Southington, even for that matter, because they're close to the highway. Am I gonna go to Timberland? I don't know. I don't know.
What's a year-round, what would we do year-round?
You talk virtual golf, and yes, people are doing it, and I'm sure, I don't know, I haven't done enough research into it, I assume that it's successful, because bowling alleys are doing it, golf courses are doing it, for all I know, the golf shops are doing it, so I don't know if that market's gonna become saturated or not, I don't know. I don't know if anybody's willing to come out in the middle of December or January to go play virtual golf, I don't know. I think, what I'd like to see is something used as an asset for the people of Berlin, as well as surrounding towns. Now, whether or not it's gonna be a moneymaker initially, no, it's not, because we're just gonna, but I always wanted to do a skating rink there, okay? To bring families in. Now, if your restaurant is open, well, they can go get a hot chocolate, a hot dog, a hamburger, or whatever. At least you're collecting rent during those off months. So there's money coming through the door as opposed to no money, the money going out. So, something like that, we see many, many cross-country skiers and snowshoers at Timberland. So like Rockledge does, he's got a trail. He's got a walking trail that they maintain in the winter. And I think he's got a snowshoe and cross-country trail as well. But again, you're getting people coming in from out of town to utilize it. So, whether that's good for Ramsey or whoever the restaurateur is at that point, yeah, it's going to be good. And like I said, the town will generate revenue from that because you're going to be collecting rent during those 4 or 5 months that you're not. It's better than nothing, because right now the money's just going out the door, just throw it out the door. So, but there's a lot that property can be. I still think if you were, and we keep going back to the clubhouse, but if you were to do it right, yeah, you would be very successful in that you're going to be having people coming through for their banquets, for their weddings, for their showers, for their birthdays, for this, for that. Again, if you look at the successful businesses, that's what they're doing, and they're tremendously successful, because if they weren't, they wouldn't keep putting another building up and another building up. And like I said, the prime example for me in my little world is Hawks. Go look at Hawks Landing. We're in Southington. They're very much like us in that you can see them from 84, but you gotta travel to get there. You gotta know where you're going. But you go look at that facility, Pete and I were talking, you go over there like on Memorial Day weekend, I always like to do my little investigation. I go around and I check out the different courses. I don't know if it was a Friday or Saturday night, Memorial Day weekend. You couldn't get near the place. They were parking on the grass, they were parking on the street, the parking lot was full.
Is that a municipal course?
That's a privately owned course.
Privately.
Yeah. I don't know what Hunter's going on, I'll go down that way. I do know Stanley does tremendous business. I do know Rockledge does a tremendous business in there. And again, they're a municipality, they're under West Hartford, so, and they invested a lot of money into that clubhouse, a lot of money. So it's all what you want, folks, and it's not so much what you want, what can you afford? I know they used to say champagne tastes the beer pocket money, so what do you want? What do you want to be when you grow up? It's there. Now you just got to decide to what extent you want to take it. The course itself, my vision for the golf course itself, which I don't want to share too much, but you're in the next.
Oh, come on, share it all.
No. The next 2 or 3 years, you're going to see tremendous change there. I do. I see that, and you're going to change the entire complexion of that course. Again, you can't stay stagnant because people have to have a reason to come back. If you keep rehashing the same thing over and over and over again, it doesn't work. Definition of insanity, I think I said at the council meeting, was you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Berlin likes to do that sometimes.
No, Berlin doesn't. Berlin's a great town.
Oh, I love Berlin. I'm born and raised here, but I do see things like you said that we've always done this for 50 years. We just keep doing it that way.
Yeah.
That's not what we want.
I don't care, because
And it
at
is
some
like
point,
50 years now, right? We are.
we're 50 years, 51,
So,
so at some
maybe it's
point,
time for change now, right?
it's time for
Make it
change.
better.
It's
Make it
time
better.
for, make it better, that's all you can do. And you'll get there, you'll get there.
Huh?
Okay.
That's always a bit, that's, improve, how about improve?
Evolve.
Evolve, improve, okay,
Transform.
change is a bad word, all right. I thought the only thing constant in life is change, but that's all right.
That's true.
Yeah, all right, well,
We'll get a couple
we
boxes.
appreciate that, Jerry.
It's nothing.
Anybody else before we adjourn and the next meeting, what did I say we're gonna do next meeting? Oh, we're gonna revise our statement, and, make sure the statement of need is what we came up with, whenever you guys did, appreciate that about a year ago. And then pick a couple of topics maybe on the.
I was gonna say, the commission is gonna revise the statement of need, right? And perhaps send it,
Yeah.
send it to the council
Yeah.
in advance, and we can probably look at it.
Yeah, let's see it, we'll put it on the agenda for the joint meeting, but you guys revise it, send it to us. And then if there's a couple different things you wanna
Right.
talk about.
And we also have to prioritize what we do. I mean, there's a lot that's thrown out here.
Sure.
But we won't go and just invest money without really doing a market analysis, study whether the market can afford it, what it will bring in. I mean, there are restaurants down on Farmington Avenue, people don't come in there all the time either, right? So you just have to think this through really well. And I use Blackbird as an example. It's been in the family for 25, 30. It's a destination because it has grown into that. And people have invested money into it. It's a different feel to it. So like anything else, we wouldn't invest money without really putting together a business plan and understanding, who's going to come, who's going to support it. Is the market there to begin with? You don't want to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars and find out, if you build it, they will come. Just I'm cautioning you. So I think we need to get to the core of the golf club and the operations. Step one, we could think about 3, 4, 5 years down the line what we want to do. But in terms of the golf operation itself and the clubhouse and what type of investments we want to do and coming up with a sustainable financial model. And, a few of us can put some ideas together and I'll tap into the town. You have made the mistake of giving me your contact information, so I'll call you.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's the purpose of this, right? To proceed cautiously, to see what we can do to improve it, obviously, what it's gonna cost and what's the benefit.
I just want to clarify one thing that, Jerry, you said people from out of town come to Timberland. Other than that, not many people come to Berlin.
People from out of town do come to Berlin, or come to Timberland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With one exception, why Centennial Park? To walk the dog. People from out of town come.
This is not a political meeting, or this is not a political meeting.
I was gonna say that, but I thought we'd stay away from that debate tonight, but I guess it's here, right? Yeah.
It's getting late.
Any restrictions moving forward with us getting together in person? This is Zoom stuff and what we have to go through.
Yeah.
But, and what we're discussing, is there any restrictions that now we can hold our commission meetings?
In a smaller room? Well, in person.
That's town hall.
We are in person.
Right?
You can.
We can use town hall now, yes.
We can come back.
Yes.
You can, but you still need to have,
Zoom.
provide the capability for those who want to join remotely. But like we do at the council meeting or any other room, we can pick a room. We picked this one before so that, before the COVID rules were relaxed, so people could spread out a little bit. Now, I see everybody's very cozy now.
You're all sitting together, right?
Yeah, no, right?
You're over there, you're over there. We made you sit there. Yeah, but we made you sit there, Jerry, we made you sit there. But yeah, no, we can do it in, either in the council chambers or Board of Ed or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Board of Ed is.
Board of Ed maybe is a good size whiteboard. Huh?
Or with a whiteboard.
Yeah, so maybe the Board of Ed would be the next place, we can try that for the next one. Yeah, I know, that this is not help with discussion. But-
I was more really concerned about our own little commission where, it's just so difficult to really hit the important stuff on Zoom.
Technically challenged.
Yes.
Well, okay, sure. If you wanted to go down.
It's on you for a reason, Jimbo.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we're headed. Again, this was for that first meeting after COVID or under COVID that we figured people could spread out. And there were quite a few people attending. So it was a good thing, but I think as we continue, I'm sure the audience will dwindle as they probably have tonight a little bit, but they can always zoom in. But it would certainly facilitate our discussion to be in a little bit closer setting, right? Yeah, so we'll do that. Okay, if there's nothing else, thanks for coming, appreciate it.
Thank you.
You will get, I'm sure, some phone calls, maybe a lot, I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn,
Visit too.
adjourn, second. All right, all those in favor? All right, thank you, everyone, appreciate it.
And thank you, everyone online.
And online, thanks for coming in.
Mark's in touch with me. And it's done.